Welcome to the 25th Hour podcast, where successful business owners talk about the magic of creating a 25th hour every day. I'm your host, Lisa Crilly-Malice. We've all been there. Your calendar's in great shape, your to-do list is done, you are totally in the zone. All the balls that you have in the air are being easily juggled. And then something changes. And all of a sudden, chaos reigns. This is the podcast that will help you learn to up-level your time management strategies so you can get back in control of your day and make an extra hour, your 25th hour, a reality every day. Today, my guest is Amy Irvine. She's the founder and owner of Rooted Planning Group, a group that consists of 5 financial planners, 2 part-time staff members. Amy is passionate about family, finances, and wine, which comes through in who she is and what she does. She describes herself as a wife, a daughter, a good friend who happens to also be a financial planner. So welcome, Amy. I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks. This is exciting, Lisa.
It is totally my pleasure, and I appreciate you sharing your time with us today. So not only are you a financial planner, but you also host a podcast and you mentor other financial planners on how to grow successful businesses. Plus, you travel. So from our previous conversations, I know that you have some great strategies that you use to get it all done without feeling like you're all over the place. So what are some of those strategies that you use to stay in control of your day?
Yeah. One of the first things that I do is compartmentalize. So if I'm working on a group of tasks, I shut everything else down. You know, I have that particular time. I'm going to focus on that particular task or topic or plan or client or whatever it might be. But really compartmentalizing, time blocking is huge in my life. I find that I can be a squirrel at times. You know, I can run down any particular rabbit hole or up a tree or, you know, glance off into the distance and think, oh, isn't that a pretty flower? I'm just like everybody else. But when I say on my calendar, I'm going to work on something, that is an appointment with myself to work on something. And compartmentalizing for me really keeps me very focused. So as an example, if I'm working on compliance tasks, then I block a period of time, couple hours, where I close down anything like email, Slack, anything that, you know, I need to shut down so that I'm not distracted. And I work on those compliance tasks. And if I can't get them all done, then I schedule out another time block for me to work on those again. Even working with staff members, you know, working with team members, we schedule time on the calendar. Sometimes we don't take the entire time, but we compartmentalize in preparing for our client meetings. Mondays is our big prep day. And we have it right on the calendar, like we're meeting with each other so that we can focus on what needs to be done for these clients, who's going to be doing it, and when they're going to be doing it by. That's probably one of the biggest issues for me, and figuring out delegation. And you and I spoke about that a lot. Delegation is, I think that's an evolving muscle that everybody has to work on, but we're working on it as a team to say, who really needs to be doing that job? What's my role at the company? You know, how do I represent this company? And how does everybody else represent this company? And then probably recently, this is sort of a new discovery, and I've heard other people say it before, and I could never quite figure out how they did it, but there's this word in the English language, and it starts with an N and it ends with an O. It's just 2 simple letters in our vocabulary, but man, is it awesome. Recently I went through my calendar. We were restructuring just slightly. And so I had to go through my calendar and start eliminating or moving or pausing some things so that I could do exactly what I wanted to do with a particular goal. And, you know, using the word no, it's funny because people are like, you know, well, could you just do this? I'm like, not right now. right, maybe in the future, why don't you reach out to me in like 6 months? So I'm not blowing them off, for lack of a better term, but I'm just saying not right now. Or in some cases, I'm saying no, like somebody else on the team can do that, which has been wonderful.
Right. And it goes so hand in hand with delegating.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I use with my clients is we call it the 4Ds. And so it's either delete, meaning it doesn't belong on our calendar at all,
Mm-hmm.
or defer, which is what you're doing. You're
Mm-hmm.
deciding this is something that I need to do, but not right now. Resources will be better at a different time. Delegate, which you are so on the path of mastering, because it's something that does need to be done, but not something that you need to do yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then define. And what I find is that's where the value comes from, is to be able to take the task and realize my piece of it is this tiny, tiny, tiny piece.
Mm-hmm.
And someone else can do the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Or if someone comes in and says, I need you to do this, or can you help me with this? And you feel yourself pushing them out 6 months, there's that opportunity to be able to say, ooh, I can't help you now, but so-and-so can.
Mm-hmm.
And you can redefine the ask to something that fits for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you're walking down that path. Now, what are you finding? What are you finding is helping you decide
Technology is huge.
what to do?
Yeah. To decide what to do. One of the things I've been asking myself a lot lately is, how passionate am I about this? When I see that particular task or item on my calendar, am I excited about it, or is it a necessity? So it really needs to be the two, right? Like I am the only, maybe I'm not excited about it, but I am the only person that can do this thing, at least at this time. And I put that phrase on there, at this time. But that's one thing. And then the second thing is, how excited am I about this particular thing? Because if I'm not excited about it, then I'm actually taking a step back and saying, but who on the team might be? I mean, when you have a growing group of people, I know we're still very small, but there might be somebody on the team that would get very excited about that. So asking somebody if they would like to take on that particular meeting or charitable organization or task or whatever it might be, that's what's kind of helping me define that time blocking in that calendar a little bit more. And especially the things that I'm looking at on my calendar and saying, right, well, I need to do it right now, but who in the future might be able to do that? Because I don't love it. Who in the future might be able to do it? And starting to have conversations. We have a Google Doc that we keep track of all of our ongoing projects in. And every Monday in our team meeting, we go through this Google Doc as to who's working on what, who needs help with what, and who can take on like particular tasks that are needed to be done. And it's interesting when I look back through, like at the very beginning of the year versus where we're at now, my to-do list is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and everybody else's is evening out. I wouldn't say theirs is getting necessarily larger, but it's evening out. And that has been another sort of time hack a little bit from that perspective, as well as I think I mentioned to you before, Lisa, one of my big issues, and I think a lot of people run into it, is the email. And using filters is huge, and using a scheduling tool, especially for non-clients. Some clients have a hard time with the scheduling tool, but for non-clients, I've gotten to the point now where here's my scheduling tool. If you want to go ahead and book it, that's been huge as far as saving some time as well. Not that, and I think I work hard during the week so I can sort of play on the weekend,
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I never want people to think that I've got this like secret to working, fewer days or, not working hard. That's not the case, but it's very compartmentalized to be during the week. And often a couple hours on Saturday morning, just because that's my creative time. Like that's the time during the week that I love it. Like, so it doesn't bother me at all. And that's my creative space. And it's very early in the morning where most of the world is still asleep on a Saturday. And I actually enjoy it. And that's when I do design work from a planning perspective and sometimes a company perspective.
Right. And when we had spoken earlier, you're like, well, I don't know that I work less. It's just I work differently. And I think that's the key for people who are listening. It's not that you're looking to, do that 4-hour week stuff.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. It's about being able to do the work that you love in a way that energizes you instead of depletes you. Yep. And you're there. Like, it's always a journey. So of course you have not hit the end, but you're definitely getting there. Tell me more about your process of figuring out, this always intrigues me. You have a staff, you have done the majority of the work, and then you start bringing on staff people and you start moving tasks over to them. Tell me about how you're figuring out the stuff that they would be energized and excited about versus just dropping it and running, as some of my clients will do.
Yeah, I think for me, because I've had that done to me before, I'm very sensitive to it and aware that it can happen, and that just because you're good at something, that doesn't necessarily mean that you want to do that something. So it takes longer. I think my process takes longer to figure out who the right fit for that particular task is. But that's because I want to make sure it's something that somebody wants to do longer term. When I look at skill set, I'll give you an example, a recent change that we made in our firm. So Carrie Bean, one of our CFPs and financial planners, she loves to educate clients. I mean, she's just huge into education. She likes to do college planning. She likes to do like budgeting and working with new graduates, with people that want to get their spending plan really buttoned up, wants to help them understand terminology. And one of the reasons that Carrie is so passionate about it, she was a career changer and she became a financial planner because she couldn't find one. And so she wants to take that journey that she has and she wants to share that with people in a more positive way than her experience initially was. So she's fabulous at education. So we were talking about some programs that we want to offer coming down the road, some boot camp type programs that we want to offer, real short in duration, but like boot camp for spending and boot camp for education, just really short-term arrangements. And when it came time to figure out who was going to run those, it was easy to see who on the team would really get charged up about creating the content, delivering the content, promoting the content. So we made her our director of education services because that's her passion. Now that means that she may not be able to work with as many clients one-on-one, which is okay, but she's going to get up in the morning and look at her calendar and say, I get to do this. And isn't that what everybody wants to do?
Right.
So that's just one example recently of something we're going through. Another quick example is we have a team member who, she's a systems queen. I mean, she knows it. Anne is her name, and she's dealt with a lot of different systems over the years. So she can look at a new system and fairly quickly figure it out. I mean, it takes some training and some time, but she tends to have a mind that thinks like a computer, like a software program, right? So when we decided to move from one financial planning system over to a new financial planning system, it became pretty evident that she was going to be our e-money queen. So, it's just looking at, and she's excited about it. She's thrilled, and her schedule is such that she really can't, especially in today's world where daycare is an issue. She works very hard, but she has to have a flexible schedule. So we don't care when the plans get moved over or when the plan gets developed. We just need it done. And for her, this was a perfect, move into her world and something off from all of our plates.
I love when I hear you say, I'm looking at their strengths. They have input in our decisions. It's truly a team approach. Earlier, you had mentioned that you have your team meetings on Monday and you time block your things.
Mm-hmm.
What's your process if a team member has a question outside of the time that you have set aside for answering their questions?
So we actually have Monday, but then we have what's called office hours as well. So once a week, usually on a Wednesday, usually Wednesday afternoon, there is a time blocked on the calendar that's for office hours. Anybody can show up, anybody can sit in. You might not even have a question, but you just want to learn from somebody else, and you can come and participate in office hours. Now, there's always going to be those off moment things, like something comes up. And traditionally, we will use Slack because that keeps our email messages down to a minimum. And sometimes when it's posted in Slack, somebody else on the team can answer the question. So, historically speaking, that's, I wouldn't say historically, but that over the last probably 18 months has developed into our process. So we have Monday meetings, and then we have Wednesday office hours. And then in between those times, there is Slack. Now, if something really comes up, we'll take a look at the calendar. We'll put some time on the calendar where we can think about that particular topic and work through whatever the challenges that we're experimenting with.
And you're empowering your employees to help each other.
Yeah, they're a great team. I mean, we all have tough days. We all have tough weeks. But the team as a whole, they're so amazing. One of our teammates right now is on vacation, and, one of the other teammates stepped up to the plate and said, I'll monitor your emails. I'll make sure that, things get responded to or, forwarded to the right person. So now when she comes back from vacation, she might have one or two emails that she needs to get caught up on, but not 150 to 200, or in my case, I think I'd probably have like 1,000 if I didn't have somebody monitor my emails when I was out. So yeah, I mean, they're for each other. I mean, and I think that goes back to the hiring process to a bit too. Mistakes that I made early on was hiring people that I liked, which is great. That's important too. But hiring people that you like and that have the skills are really critical. And that and is, 3 capital letters, because, personalities are important. And we always say that we want to work with people that we would hang out with, even if we didn't work together, just like the clients that we want to bring on. They're people that we want to hang out with, even if we didn't work with them. But the skill set is really, really critical, and making sure that when we're hiring somebody, we're filling that skill set that we're lacking, or, if there's jobs that people aren't passionate about. For example, many people aren't passionate about scheduling meetings. That's, it's a necessity for our firm and our firm's success, but trying to work among several schedules and get clients into the calendar can be a rather mundane job. And yet some people just love that. So finding that person that we like, that wants to fill those holes that other people on the team aren't particularly excited about. It's really important.
Yes, absolutely. So you were talking about, mistakes you made early, and we know that time management is a process. Like, we're always learning, we're always growing. Where, if anywhere, are you having any challenges with your time management right now?
Yeah, I still think one of the things about me is I love what I do. And sometimes I love it so much that it does wear me out, that I'll work more than I should without realizing how it is kind of overwhelming, and I don't even realize it, right? It's like when you're driving down the road. I guess the best way for me to explain it is you're driving down the road, and it's the same road that you've driven time and time and time and time again. And you've been driving for 10 or 15 minutes and you sort of come out of your fog. And you're like, I do not remember getting here.
Where am I? How did I get here? Is it even the right way? Yes.
It's almost on autopilot, right? Well, to a certain extent, sometimes I'm on autopilot, and I don't realize how my autopilot might not be the same speed as everybody else's. And my husband always has said that she doesn't have an off switch, she just has a dimmer.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, that can be a challenge to the team as a whole, because they feel the need to sort of keep up. And it's their business too. When you're a small team, it's their business too, but I think there's those times where people really want to say, you need to take a breath, but they're trying to figure out how to say it. And letting go is still, this is my baby. This
Right.
is, when people ask if I have kids, I say, depends on how you define children. I have a child that was born 5 years ago that that I spend a lot of time nurturing, a lot of time developing, a lot of time educating. And, it's, if you have children, those first formative years, you're very protective. You really want hands-on. You feel that everybody in the firm is representing you in a way that you need to somewhat control. And that's a muscle that's really hard to redevelop.
Right. One of the books, and I can't remember when we spoke, if we talked about this book. Have you read the book Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz?
I haven't, but I've got it on my to-read list.
To-read list. Perfect.
For October. Yep, for October, for our book club in October.
Oh, yeah, good. In there's some conversation around, it's yours, you've nurtured it, it's your baby. And then, how difficult it is to let go. And then some strategies to help let go. So I'm glad it's on your to-read list in October, because I know we had spoken about this. It's my favorite business book of all time. So
I think it's true for all business owners, though. I mean, I think that's part of the issue. And there's also, if you want a business that you want to sell, you've got to make the business less about you and more about the business, right? And the more we're able to show our clients and show the community and the world that this is a collective organization, the more value your business is going to bring. Almost 2 years ago, we went through and decided to rebrand for that reason, because the company was originally Irvine Wealth Planning Strategies. And as I had started to add team members, people were like, who's Irvine? Irvine, California? Irvine, what is Irvine? And so we decided to rebrand. So the formal name, obviously, for LLC purposes is still Irvine Wealth Planning Strategy, but we have a DBA called Rooted Planning Group, and that's our brand, because I needed people outside of our organization, and honestly inside our organization, to understand this was more than just me. And the more that it becomes more than just me, I think the more easier it will become for me to allow other representation. The brand will, instead of feeling like it's my reputation, it will be the brand reputation, and everybody will be committed to that. And that has taken, that statement that I just made is, that's taken 2 years of adjustment and almost repeating it to myself that that's what the truth is.
Right. And, I think when you look at it twofold, one, it takes some of that pressure off of you, so there's that mental side, but then from a business side, if it's only you all the time, you hit capacity. But when it's your brand and it's a collective, then your capacity continues to expand.
Yeah, I'm just a representative of that brand now. I'm not the brand anymore.
Right.
And that
Right.
was very emotional for people that are thinking about doing that. I will admit right up front, like that was hugely emotional for me. And although I don't, the team was surprised when I said that because apparently I didn't show it. It internally was extremely emotional. And I laid in bed at night worrying if this was the right thing, knowing that it was the right thing to do, but worrying about how it could affect the overall business.
Right.
Hindsight it was nothing, other than there's always a few clients that missed the email or 6 or 10 that you put out about rebranding.
Right. They don't read their email. Come now.
But overall, it really, people understand why we've done it. And we've gotten great feedback from clients on that. Like they're glad that it's not just me, that if something happens to me, that there's a backup that's in place at this point in time.
Right. And when you think about it emotionally, like when you first start to delegate, there's a struggle of letting one thing go. And then you took that and 10x'd it. And you're like, okay, we're going to make this all bigger and less me
Mm-hmm.
all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's,
I didn't think about it that way, but.
Right? Yeah. You're like, oh, wow. If I'd have thought about that when I did this, I may have made a different choice. But you're making it better for you, and you're making it better for your clients, and you're making it better for your employees.
Mm-hmm.
It just the pain of staying and the pain of leaving, it always has to be the fact that the pain of staying has to be bigger before you will take the step to make and to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a lot of pain. I mean, I think going back to some of the mistakes that I made early on, you think a lot of times you think you have good systems in place when it's just you or you and one other person. It's easy to have systems in place, right? I mean, easy to tweak them, easy to follow through on them. When you start adding team members, you find that many of those systems were great for one or two people, but you have to modify them when more and more team members start to become involved in that process. And we have morphed. I mean, if we looked at our company 3 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago, actually, then, it's ever changing. And I can't remember who said it, but I think they might have been referring to it in a different way, but somebody in our profession made the comment that if you're not changing or growing, you're dying.
Mm-hmm.
And they may have meant it in the fact that if your firm wasn't changing or maybe I think it was growing, that was how it's happening. And my perception of that wasn't so much that the firm needs to grow, although we are focused on that. It was more along the lines to me was the firm needs to grow and mature in a process way. And I think when it comes to time management and it comes to efficiency and it comes to good service, process is so key. And I drag that word so out intentionally because that's where things can get, if you don't have good processes in place, you forget to call a client back, you forget to follow up on a prospect, you forget to do a filing, you forget birthdays. I mean, those are important things.
Right.
And if you have to constantly, your processes in any company, I don't care what your company is, your processes have to be just like we tell people a financial plan has to be. It's a living, breathing document.
Yes.
That is valid for the moment that it is formed and then invalid. And constantly has to be re-looked at. It's great when you add new team members. Like I love adding new team members because the question of why is it done like that comes up. And you look at things so differently through their eyes. And every single time we've added a new team member, our processes go through another metamorphosis state. Right. And improve. That's why I say, like, just even 6 months ago, I would probably even say 3 months ago, we just constantly are changing our workflows and our processes. And that's huge because then for me personally, I can go to sleep at night if I know there's fail safes in place.
Right. Because if it is stuck, if the fail safe is your memory, That's not sustainable at all. Not for you, not for me, not for anyone else. And one of the things I share with clients is when someone questions you, why is this? If your answer is because we've always done it that way, that is a huge, right? Huge opportunity to step back and say, okay, why have we done it this way? Are those reasons still valid? I said, so even if you're not hiring new staff, it's always great just to grab someone to take a look at your processes and just, can you walk through this?
Yeah.
So tell me more about your clients. You've done a ton of things so that you can be of better service to your clients. Who are your clients?
Yeah, so because we have a variety of financial planners, we have the fortunate opportunity to serve different types of clients, right? So me personally, I've tended to grow a group of clients that happen to be in the law profession. That tends to be the top profession that I work with. Happen to be women, which I absolutely love. Not that I love working with men. I love working with couples. But I think other women are seeking out women financial planners. I mean, let's face it, we're still a very small group in this profession. And they happen to be around my age. They're in the X generation, mid-career, busy women. And I get them. I get how they think. I get their lives. Working with a lot of attorneys, I've learned a lot of their language that they're working with and how their firms work, depending on how big their firm is or if they're self-employed. So me personally, I tend to work with those types of women, some executives as well. Kate on our team tends to work with a lot of smaller sized businesses that are kind of in that growth mode. She has a great tax background, as do I, but she really, she grew up in a small business home. She understands the challenges of the intersection of running a small business. It's not just about your business is over here and your life is over here. There's that integration that exists. And you can't do financial planning for small businesses without doing financial planning for their small business at the same time. As I mentioned earlier, Carrie tends to work very much on the education side and is developing programs that help us get mass education out there for a lower price. So for people that are looking, or do-it-yourselfers that are looking to learn more about finance, she's running some of our boot camp programs that focus around that. And she does a lot on our college planning. So if you're a parent who has a child that's in 9th, 10th, or 11th, or even 12th grade, and you're thinking about doing college planning, like where are the scholarships and what should the SATs look like? And what's the admission process? What's the GPA need to be? Then Carrie's your gal on that front. Becky is our youngest financial planner and got her CFP earlier this year. And she's really good at that young, it's her age group, that young, late 30s, mid to late 30s, even mid 20s to early 30s. Really helps people around their spending plan, getting to know the benefit options that they have available through their employer, helping them set up their savings programs. So she's really fabulous working with that and focusing on student loans. And again, that's sort of, her group of people that she hangs out with. Those are some of the challenges that they're experiencing, and she's just phenomenal with them. So then Anne on our team, I already mentioned, she's also a CFP, and she tends to work sort of behind the scenes, and she's our systems person, and she's phenomenal at that. And then we have a really strong relationship with Brittany Castro, who we formed this partnership with, officially July 1st, but Brittany and I have been talking for many, many months on our strengths and how we could work together. Brittany is a phenomenal marketing person. And again, really good at education, does a ton of public speaking, But that was an area in our business that we were really weak in, especially on the marketing side. We were good financial planners, but nobody taught us how to do marketing. And some people are intrinsically good at it. They just know how to do it. We did not. So adding her relationship within our company really was, again, filling that void that we found. So, we're very fortunate to have that breadth of care on our team that we can offer without all having to be experts in one particular, general area. Like we have like mini niches going on within our
Right.
firm, and we're very fortunate to have that.
Well, it's almost like you're the unicorn. You are able to help so many people, yet each of you is so very specific in your skill set in the niche that you serve.
Yeah.
And so you've been able to be a generalist with a bunch of specialists.
Yeah. So for example, like when it comes to stock options, anybody who has stock options, the team was like, that's Amy. She's going to be the girl that works with you because, but I try to bring them in, and here's another, sort of future time hack that will happen, right? I try to bring the teammates in to say, okay, you're going to help me with this client because I want you to learn about stock options. So a lot of times, many of our clients are meeting with two financial planners at the same time so that one person on the team is learning a new skill set that they don't have the knowledge on. And so meaning the financial planner and myself,
Right.
the other financial planner and myself, will spend the time prior to meeting with the client actually digging into that information. And I have them do a lot of the work, and I'm sort of that educator behind, well, here's how an RSU is different than a non-qualified stock option, that's different than an incentive stock option. And here's the different taxability. And I usually have them charted out so that they understand it, but then that gives the client a good chart so that they understand it as well.
Right.
And they understand how the taxation works of that. And then ultimately what our recommendation is on why we're recommending something be exercised at a particular time, perhaps. So it's not for things that we find that we're not strong in, then we do try to pair up so that we all learn from each other at the same time. So that in the future, maybe somebody else on the team becomes the stock options pro, and I get to fade off into other things.
Right. So Amy, a couple of weeks ago, I was able to be a guest on your podcast, and we were talking about a project that you were creating for other financial planners. Do you have any updates on that?
Oh, yes, I'm very excited about that. Thank you so much for asking. I was in the thought process stage when you and I spoke, which, by the way, I got such great feedback on that podcast you were on. So if you haven't listened to that, hop on over to our Wine and Dime and make sure you listen to Lisa and I talk. But yeah, I'm very excited about launching a mastermind group that is going to focus on process for financial planners, process in a lot of different ways, right? So when you're first setting up your firm, it's just, how do I even do that? Like, what is the process? And then we have developed a ton of checklists that will help you with your client process. What questions should you be asking clients? How do you make sure that you don't forget something on disability or life insurance, or planning for your children's education? So we have all these checklists. And when Lisa and I were talking on the podcast, one of the things that we talked about was how important it is to have time management thrown in there as well. And so after that podcast, I got to thinking, gosh, wouldn't it be great if we had several different sort of guest speakers as part of the mastermind, including Lisa, and I have a gentleman that I'm working with that focuses on grief management, as well as, some process around helping clients that are going through a grieving event. So it's a 12-month program. And it's going to be $300 a month, and you get all of these checklists. And we have a once a month mastermind group where we're going to be talking about these checklists, how you can implement them into your practice, ways that you can improve your practice, time management, dealing with grief, leadership development. And at the end of the 12 months, you graduate, you have all these documentations, you can use it however you want it within your firm. And, there's there's some sense of having control about the way that you're implementing things. And how do you integrate that within your wealth box, or I use wealth box, so I said wealth box, but CRM system. And we're going to walk through all of those. So looks like we're going to launch it October 1st. So I'm thrilled about that. We're putting the calendar together right now. Again, so thrilled that Lisa, you have agreed to be part of that program. And I think it's just going to make the world of difference on how planners run their firm. And it really was born out of the fact that so many other financial planners were calling me, that it got to the point that I was like, I got practice to run over here. It goes to that whole compartmentalizing thing. How do I bring all these people in that are calling me and asking questions together, so that they can even help and support each other outside of me giving them advice and sharing our process.
Right. It's so difficult when you first start. You don't know what you don't know. And so you're taking a lot of what you don't know out and saying, okay, look, here are the things I know right now that you don't know, but I'm going to help share my resources with you so that you can learn those, so that you're not making those, like I always think of as low hanging fruit when it comes to mistakes. Like everyone makes mistakes growing their business. Let's get the easy stuff way out of the way. So that you can move on. And I am thrilled to be in partnership with you with this, and to be
right. Well, to your point, a lot of financial advisors don't make mistakes on purpose. It's not like they set out to, give the wrong advice. It's most of the time it's because they didn't know. And so by developing, these checklists that we have and sharing them with the world, and even maybe sharing them with your clients, there's nothing wrong with that either. We actually use some of those checklists as communication tools with our clients. That just makes sure that all of those details don't get overlooked. And it's amazing how many times you can ask a client a particular question and they answer one way, and then you ask a slightly different way and you get a completely different answer. And so that's what these checklists are actually meant to do. And like I said, we're just very excited. Again, you can probably just tell from my, facial expression, this is passion for me. I've been in this business for 26 years. I had a few people along the way that, I can say were thankfully there to give me some guidance, but nobody handed me checklists that said, okay, this is how you should ask a bunch of questions around disability planning, or this is how you could ask a bunch of questions around education planning, or goal planning, or cash flow management. I mean, these are all the things that we've put together. And I worked really closely years ago and with a company called Fiscal Fitness Clubs, and Carol Craigie was the original developer of Fiscal Fitness Clubs. And that was an organization that was meant to provide financial planning to the masses at a very, very low price. I purchased all the materials with her, merged it with my material that I had. And so now we've developed this program that we're thrilled to be rolling out for advisors to then take to the masses if they want to.
Oh, congratulations. I'm super excited that it's moving forward, and we'll put the link in the show notes once registration opens and things like that.
Yeah, we're excited. And thank you, Lisa, for being part of this, because I do think it's really important that people understand how to do some of the things that you and I have talked about. This is not, it's not, like I've always said, it's financial planning, time management. We weren't born to know how to do that. It's not like we came out into this world and, it just was there in our head. It's not like breathing or eating or any other bodily function. It is something that we're taught. And I think it's a big part of a successful firm. So thank you for being part of that.
Oh, my pleasure. As you continue to increase your effectiveness and efficiency, what do you want to do with that extra hour that you can create each day?
So that is, that's a fun question. In the introduction, you mentioned that I love wine. And with that extra hour, I would spend more time studying about wine, exploring, going on a journey. So part of the podcast that you mentioned that I do, Wine and Dime, the whole purpose of me starting that podcast was to bring together two categories that people are very scared about: wine and finance. They're two categories that people are like, oh, I don't know enough about it. I don't know. I don't deal with that. I'm dumb in that area. And I never like the word dumb, number one, but we just aren't as educated as we'd like to be in those particular areas. And for me, sitting around tasting a wine or just going on a journey, like hopping in the car and saying, I've never been to this winery, let's go try it out, is a dream, like that idea. And then sharing it with the audience and saying, this wine is, here's why I like it. And here's what I discovered about it. And here's what I didn't know. Like, here's my education journey on wine. And then, continuing to combine that with taking away the fear of finance. If I could do that more and more and more, or do that with my 25th hour, talk about passion, talk about exciting, talk about experiences. I have a saying that I used. In fact, the team created bookmarks, and I thought it was awesome that they did this. But my saying is, life is about events supported by your dollars and cents. And it's all about a journey. Everybody's life is about a journey. It's not about what we have, it's about what we've done in most cases. And for me, that 25th hour, or hopefully 4th, 23rd, 22nd.
Right, I just say, so starting at hour 12.
Yeah. Hopefully I can continue to do more of that. And that would help me achieve a lifelong goal of taking the fear out of two things that I absolutely love. And I think a lot of other people do too. They just need to be educated more about it.
Right. And it's so you educate them in the two areas that are of your passion.
My passion. Yeah.
Great. So how do people get a hold of you?
So there's lots of ways. We are all over social media, right? Instagram, you can find us under Rooted PG, on Twitter, the Rooted Planning Group, as well as Amy Irvine. Amy Irvine Advise. Under Facebook, you can find us under Rooted Planning Group. On let's see, I said Instagram. Under LinkedIn, you can find us under Rooted Planning Group, and then of course under Amy Irvine. If you're looking to find information about what we do and how we've structured us, we are actually going through something right now that I delegated, which is a web design, redesign, I should say. But our website is rootedpg.com. And you can always email us at info@rootedpg.com or amy@rootedpg.com. But yeah, the website, I'm very excited. We are just in those planning stages. I have always been the person that's pretty much worked on the website over time. I'm very fortunate to have a brother who helped me get that website started. But we've got so much content and so much information out there now that we've almost made it too complex. And so we're working with an actual professional web designer to help us get that newly launched website up and running. And that took a lot for me to pull the plug on that, not just because of the financial commitment, but just because, again, it's a baby of mine that I'm letting somebody else who's really more qualified and skilled at designing this website. And I just, it was like, well, I need this to be about us. And she's like, I will make it about you.
She's like, I'm a professional. I'm really good at what I do. I promise I will make it about you.
Yeah. So there's lots of places to find us is the point.
Yes. Great. And anything else that you would like to share with our audience that we haven't touched on, or anything you want to share?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I would want people to, I just want to reiterate something that I said. You really need to learn the word no. And this, I can't accentuate this more, is that there's always that FOMO, right? That fear of missing out. And I've gone through it for years. I've done it for years, and it takes a toll on you. At some point in time, it just drains the energy out of you. really taking time to work with a coach, in my opinion, to work with a coach, to sit down and discover what you're passionate about and do those things and say no to the rest.
Right. You can, there's a quote, and I forget, but I will find it and put it in the show notes, but there's a quote about you can fill your day with good and it will push out the great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And it took
that's all
me
about
years. Well, it took me years to discover that. It seems like such a simple thing, but I definitely have FOMO at times, and it takes, I've got a journal that I've got my goals in the very front cover. So here's my journal book that I have. And in the very front cover, I have a list of my primary goals. And when something comes up anymore, I look at that 3 bullets and I ask, does it fit into those goals? And if the answer to that question is no, then I say no.
Mm-hmm. I have the same sitting right here. It's on a post-it note. So it's my rubric. I lay it up against it, and
Yeah.
that is how it makes it on my calendar or not.
Well, and so that's perfect. That leads into, that's the benefit of having a coach.
Right.
Because sometimes it's really challenging to figure out how to narrow down those goals. And that's I have a lot more than 3 goals that are listed in that, but some of those things are not now, later.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Let's focus on these 3 things right now, with looking down the road at these other things. It's really, really no different than when we're talking to people about their money goals, right? You can't have everything today.
Right.
So what are your top priorities on what you really want the most? It's going to bring you the most pleasure out of life. It's going to improve your life tenfold over every other goal that you possibly have. So we have lots of goals, but let's look at those top 3 this year. And let's put the other ones out there for future years. You don't have to forget them. Let's marinate them and see how important they really are.
Right. And with my post-it note, as I finish one, I then look at the lengthy list that is marinating and do a quick pass through, because some things over time are no longer important.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I can cross them out and then slide one back into the top 3 and then continue to work on those.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I could talk to you all day and then some. So thank you for being here. I so appreciate your time. And for those of you watching, reach out to Amy, whether you're a financial planner looking to grow your practice, or if you are a person who would love to learn how to make your events happen with your dollars and cents. Reach out to her. And if you're looking at trying to figure out how to get the 25th hour in your day every day, I invite you to go to impactedstrategies.com/quiz. It'll take you 2 minutes and you'll get lots of ideas on how you can be more effective and more efficient. So thank you again, Amy.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.